little bit about you and your practice and how you got into financial planning.
I looked in the paper and I knew this guy, and there was an advert about financial planning, and they were looking for somebody with a CFP, which I didn't know anything about financial planning at that point, but because I was studying economics, they took me on as an appy sort of thing, and it was actually an amazing way to come into the industry. But I got to meet with clients and meet with people mostly in the retirement space, and really enjoyed spending time with them. And so while I was there, I finished off my economics, and once I finished my board exams, decided that it was time to look at going independent. And it was probably a 2-year journey of realizing that value and what value a financial planner should be bringing into a client's life.
A lot of customers are put off by getting a phone call from a financial advisor or a broker because they think, they're just going to try and sell me another life policy. What does financial planning mean for you and your clients that you serve?
I want my clients to be able to pop me a message if there's suddenly a decision they may need to make, and it can be something simple. If we've spoken about our goals and that sort of thing, and suddenly there's a nice car that they want to buy, there might be good rationale around it. But sometimes just having somebody to call, chat through it, often we know the answers ourselves, and we just need to talk rationally around those things. So we try to look at it from a holistic point of view, and it is all revolves around trust, because just dealing with a client recently who's been one of my longest standing clients, and she's now at that stage of life where she's moving into frail care and having to sell her home and sell her car. It's an emotional journey, and that's a hugely important aspect of the value that we should be giving in a client's life. I think something I try to position right up front is financial planning is all about avoiding risks or overcoming potential risks.
Okay.
And so I often will position it in the beginning that every risk actually has a cost.
Yeah.
So there's the risk that we're going to die before we retire. But it's actually a really small risk. And so relatively the cost of life cover is very low. There's a risk of our car being in an accident or stolen or something like that. So we need car insurance. And that's maybe a little bit of a bigger risk, and the cost relatively is higher. There's the risk that we're going to need private health care, and so there's all these risks, and a lot of practices build themselves around one particular risk. In our opinion at GCI, the biggest risk that is often actually ignored is the fact that we are going to retire. There is going to come a point in time where our wealth needs to be sufficient to maintain our lifestyle. And in South Africa, less than 7% of people can actually afford to stop working and maintain their lifestyle. So it's actually a huge issue. And so I like to start at that end and help people achieve financial freedom. Now, all the other risks are there still. We still have the risk that we need medical aid, we need life cover, we need car insurance, all those things are there, but they mustn't overshadow the ultimate, and it's trying to balance all of those. I mean, it's very seldom would be a once-off solution, but it's about walking a road with people as we go through, as life changes, as incomes change, as family dynamics change. As we walk that road, yes, we might put in something to cover something else along the way.
Brilliant.
Whatever that might be.
So everything you've said about kind of actually the biggest risk of South Africans is not dying before retirement, but actually living past our money, living past what our wealth allows us to live. How does ICON better enable your practice?
I suppose the major thing as I've grown my practice over time, my major focus is investments. It is retirement. It is, clients actually changing from the workforce into the retirement space and that sort of thing. So for anyone, your biggest risks are the things you don't know are a problem, and there's a lot that I don't know. And just working with individual insurance companies, obviously they just tell me the best of their thing, and it can sometimes be a little bit difficult to actually know the little nuances that might make one direction slightly better or worse for a client than the other. So Icon provides me with a huge service where, even just in a simple client annual review, they're able to just have a look over a client's policy where I'm able to say, well, this is the direction that we're going, and where we at. None of us have unlimited funds. We have to decide which of these risks we are going to actually focus on.
And what are going to be,
and how much we're going to focus on each risk. Some of the worst cases I've ever seen is where clients' whole retirement plan has been based on one spouse dying. I've seen that many times where you're talking to somebody in their 70s and they've got 20 million rand life cover, but they don't have any money in their account and they can't put bread on the table, and it puts them into a very difficult position that all of their planning has really been around, well, the risk of you dying, let's cover that risk.
There's such a synergy between your philosophy and your financial planning and the belief that backs Icon in terms of its ethos.
For me, it plugs a huge gap where I just don't have the hours to stay up to date with all of the providers. In the beginning of my practice, I knew some providers incredibly well, and I aligned with the ones that were around income protection and that sort of thing. It aligned with my sort of own philosophy, and there's a place for everything.
Yes, 100%.
There is. And it's about making sure that you're filling that right place with the right optional product for a client. And I don't have that ability without the assistance of Icon.
Cool. What does Icon actually do on a practical level for you?
A few things. So, potentially I identify in a meeting that there is a risk that we want to cover. I then just actually chat with Vanessa at Icon, and she provides some options. We'll look at the direction I think we want to go and how to cover that risk, and Icon might provide other points of view of how to cover that same sort of risk and different options, as well as comparing it across a few different providers.
Awesome. And is there anything that Icon gives you in terms of tools or proposals that you take to your clients?
Yes, so they do. So they've been a big way with that. Other than just the quotes, they're actually comparing those little nuances within the cover. They help highlight differences to me. So, from a client's point of view, you just hear disability cover, okay, and one says I'm paying 200 rand and the other guy at the bride's paying 3,000 rand. Well, what's the difference? And where then Icon helps me be able to position that.
Cool.
Why?
And how do you engage with Vanessa when you're looking at a client proposal?
So, we might jump onto a Teams meeting or something like that. Normally, I just pop her an email explaining my client's situation, maybe a little bit of the retirement plan info. She might then come back and ask other questions, or else she'll provide the quotes and the sort of the direction, and then we'll chat about it, which might change the direction again. Okay. But ultimately, then they provide a proposal that I can present to the client in line with my normal client meeting.
Brilliant.
Post-sale, another difficult thing for me as a wealth, or as you could call an investment financial plan, I suppose, and why I've avoided risk, because post-sale there's often complications, that, and it can be simple things like a client's bloods or have an issue, and then suddenly the cover isn't in place, and Icon really steps in there and helps me understand how and what I need from the client to getting the product in place as efficiently or quickly as possible.
Brilliant. Cool.